The assembly hall on Covenant's rest station stretched high above the delegates, its curved walls showing stars beyond. 23 different species sat in their assigned seats, arranged in careful circles around the central platform. Their translation devices hummed softly, turning alien sounds into words everyone could understand. Ambassador Min-Jun Park stood with his small team near the entrance reserved for petitioners. Only 5 humans compared to the dozens representing other species. For 6 months, they had come to this hall, hoping to join the Galactic Council. Today felt different. The air seemed heavy with something unspoken. Council Speaker Vrath rose from his seat. The Korthax was tall, covered in dark scales that caught the light. His eyes were cold and intelligent. He had led the council for 3 decades and knew how things worked. "We present the final terms for human membership," Vrath announced. His voice echoed through the chamber. "These are generous conditions, considering humanity's youth among the stars." Min-Jun listened carefully. His face showed nothing. Beside him, Dr. Sarah Chen adjusted her glasses. Captain James Rodriguez stood perfectly still in his uniform. Economic advisor Yoon-Ji Woo held her datapad loosely. Cultural liaison. David Okonkwo watched the council members with quiet attention. Vrath read the terms slowly. Humanity must give up control of all colony worlds beyond the Sol system. Council-appointed overseers would monitor all human scientific research. Human military vessels could only be used for defense, with strict limits on their numbers and capabilities. Earth must provide 40% of its agricultural output to the Council every year for galactic stability. Around the chamber, Council members watched. The insectoid Chirix clicked their mandibles with approval. The gaseous Valorum pulsed in their containment suits, their colors shifting to satisfied blues. The feline Marak flicked their tails slowly, eyes half closed with lazy confidence. "These terms recognize humanity's potential while providing proper guidance," Vrath continued. "Other species spent thousands of years earning their seats here. We offer humanity an accelerated path. You should be grateful." He did not directly say what would happen if humanity refused. He did not need to. Everyone understood. Isolation, trade restrictions, no access to the jump gate networks that connected council space. Humanity would be confined to their small corner of the galaxy, cut off and alone. "We request time to consult," Min-Jun said quietly. Vrath nodded. 15 minutes. The human delegation walked to their private chamber, the door sealed behind them. For a moment, no one spoke. Sarah broke the silence. "The research oversight would destroy our innovation programs. They would control every discovery we make." "The military restrictions leave our colonies defenseless," James added. His jaw was tight. "Any pirate or hostile force could attack, and we could not respond properly." Jiwoo pulled up calculations on her pad. "The agricultural tribute would cause food shortages on Earth within 2 years. 40% is unsustainable." David looked thoughtful. "Beyond the practical problems, there is something else. These terms would make us permanent second-class citizens. Our culture, our independence, everything that makes us human would slowly disappear." Min-Jun nodded slowly. He had known this moment would come. For months, humanity had offered good faith proposals, technology sharing programs, mutual defense agreements, cultural exchange initiatives, joint scientific ventures. Every single offer had been dismissed or countered with more demands. The Council did not want partners. They wanted subjects. "We have made our decision," Min-Jun said quietly. They returned to the chamber. The council members watched them with varying expressions. Some looked bored. Others seemed curious. A few appeared smug, certain they knew what the humans would say. Min-Jun stood at the petitioner's platform. He looked around the chamber, meeting the eyes of different species. Then he spoke. We thank the Council for their time over these past months. We acknowledge your long histories and your many achievements. We have learned much from being here. Vrath nodded, already preparing his acceptance speech. However, Minjun continued, we must respectfully decline these terms. The chamber erupted in noise. Vrath's head snapped up. The Chirix began buzzing loudly. The Marak hissed. Even the usually calm Valorum shifted colors rapidly. Furthermore, Minjun said over the noise, humanity withdraws from these negotiations entirely. We will return to Earth and proceed with our development independently. Clarify your meaning, Vrath demanded. His voice cut through the chaos. Minjun spoke clearly. We came here hoping for genuine partnership. We came seeking mutual respect and cooperation between equals. These terms offer neither. Humanity will not surrender its sovereignty or its dignity for the privilege of sitting in this chamber. You dare refuse the Council? A Chirix ambassador buzzed angrily. Do you understand your arrogance? We understand our worth, Sarah said firmly, and we understand what true partnership looks like. Vrath's scales darkened. Without Council membership, humanity remains isolated. Your colonies will be vulnerable. Your trade will suffer. Your expansion will be severely limited. Do you truly want to face the galaxy alone? The human delegation gathered their materials. They prepared to leave. Minjun paused at the chamber door. He looked back at the assembled council. 23 species who had built a civilization spanning thousands of worlds. 23 species who could not imagine anyone refusing them. We have been alone before, Minjun said simply. We will manage. The humans walked out, the door sealed behind them with a soft hiss. The council chamber fell into stunned silence. For a long moment, no one spoke. Council members looked at each other with confusion and disbelief. This had never happened before. Species always accepted the terms eventually. They had no choice. The galaxy was too big, too dangerous, too complex to face without Council support. Vrath finally spoke. This is merely pride, human stubbornness. They will return within one cycle, begging us to reconsider. Most Council members nodded agreement. The Chirix buzzed their certainty. The Marak showed their teeth in confident grins. The Korthax delegates rumbled their approval of Vrath's assessment. But not everyone agreed. Ambassador Telrin of the aquatic Narration sat quietly in her water-filled suit. She watched the door where the humans had departed. Something about their departure troubled her in ways she could not quite name. Her species had joined the Council centuries ago. They had accepted similar terms, grateful for protection and trade access. They never questioned the price. That was simply how things worked in the galaxy. But the humans questioned it. They walked away rather than accept subordination. Telrin continued staring at the door long after the other council members began discussing their next steps. She wondered what the humans would do now. She wondered if they would truly survive alone. Most of all, she wondered why their departure made her feel something she had not felt in decades, something uncomfortable and challenging. She wondered if her species had made the right choice all those years ago. 3 months passed after humanity's departure from Covenant's Rest. Council Speaker Vrath expected humans to return, humbled and desperate. Instead, intelligence reports brought different news. Human colony ships were launching at rates never seen before. New settlements appeared in unclaimed systems almost weekly. Human mining operations expanded into frontier regions the Council barely monitored. Most troubling, human merchant vessels established trade routes with independent systems and minor powers outside Council control. Vrath called an emergency session. The Council chamber filled quickly. Everyone had seen the reports. Everyone had opinions. This reckless expansion must be addressed, Vrath announced. Humanity shows no respect for galactic order. The Chirix ambassador buzzed agreement. We should send military patrols, discourage their settlements in key regions. A Korthax delegate rumbled support. Economic sanctions. Any species trading with humans should face council penalties. The Marak representative showed teeth. Declare human expansion zones as disputed territory. Make them defend their claims. The proposals flew quickly. Most council members agreed that humanity needed to learn their place. But when they tried to implement these measures, problems emerged. The independent systems humanity traded with refused to sever ties. Council representatives visited these worlds with threats and promises. But the local leaders gave the same response everywhere. Humans offer fair prices, they said. They respect our customs. They do not demand we submit to their political systems. Why should we abandon such good partners? Some of these independent systems had struggled economically for decades. Council trade rarely reached them. They were too small, too distant, too unimportant. Human merchants changed that. Trade brought new prosperity, new opportunities, new hope. When council representatives threatened consequences, these systems responded with growing anger. They were tired of council interference, tired of being ignored until they did something the council disliked. Ambassador Telrin watched these developments with increasing fascination. She began conducting her own investigation, reviewing council historical records in quiet hours when others slept. She discovered patterns she had never noticed before. Young species always received harsh membership terms. The council presented these terms as standard procedure, temporary measures that would ease over time. But they rarely eased. Species that refused faced isolation and pressure until they had no choice but to accept. This was how the galaxy worked. This was normal, except humanity refused to accept it as normal. Telrin requested access to surveillance data from human colonies. She told herself she was gathering intelligence for the council, but truthfully, she was curious. What were humans building out there in their isolated systems? She expected military fortifications, resource exploitation, the usual patterns of expanding civilizations. Instead, she found something different. Human colonists built schools and hospitals first. Then came residential areas, farms, and community centers. Mines and factories appeared last, not first. They established environmental protections for alien ecosystems they encountered. On worlds with native life, humans designated preservation zones before anything else. Most surprising, they hired local species as equals, not servants, not laborers managed by human overseers, true equals working together. On New Sejong Colony, humans worked alongside Narration refugees in aquaculture facilities. Telrin watched footage of them collaborating, sharing techniques, learning from each other. The Narration refugees had fled council space years ago, unwelcome and struggling. Here, they thrived. Telrin felt something uncomfortable twist inside her. Her own species never received such treatment when they joined the council. Meanwhile, Vrath grew more frustrated. He proposed formal sanctions. Any council species trading with humanity would face immediate penalties. The vote passed, but barely. Several species abstained. The Narita abstained. So did the Valorum and 3 others. Vrath did not notice the cracks forming in council unity. He focused only on human defiance. The council's intelligence division delivered another report. Human research, freed from council oversight, was advancing rapidly. They developed improved fusion drives that cut travel time by 30%. They experimented with alternative faster-than-light methods that did not require council jump gates. Most concerning, they shared these innovations freely with their trading partners. Their technology is crude, Vrath insisted during a strategy session. Their ships are slow. Their weapons are primitive. Without council resources, humanity will stagnate. We simply need patience. Some council members nodded agreement, but others looked uncertain. The intelligence reports did not describe a stagnating civilization. They described one growing stronger every month. Then came the incident that changed everything. The UHMS Nightingale, a human medical vessel, detected a distress signal in the Ketos asteroid field. A Valorum commercial ship was stranded, caught in a debris collision that damaged their engines and breached their containment systems. The Nightingale's captain, Commander Lisa Torres, responded immediately. She brought her ship alongside the damaged Valorum vessel. The Valorum captain initially refused help. The Council had warned against accepting human assistance. It might be a trap. Humans might demand payment or political concessions, but as their life support systems failed, the Valorum had no choice. They accepted. The Nightingale crew worked for 18 hours straight. They stabilized the containment breaches, repaired critical systems, and carefully transferred all 63 Valorum crew members to safety. Human medical staff treated the injured. Human engineers fixed what could be fixed and provided temporary patches for the rest. When the crisis ended, the Valorum captain approached Commander Torres. "We must arrange payment. Name your price." Torres looked confused. "Price? We don't charge for emergency rescue. That's what we do." The Valorum captain could not understand. "But you spent resources. Your crew worked for hours. Surely you want something." "We want you to be safe," Torres said simply. "We want you to get home to your families. That's enough." The crew of the Nightingale asked nothing in return. No political favors, no trade agreements, no promises of future cooperation. They helped because help was needed. The rescued Valorum returned to Council space with this story. Vrath tried to suppress it, calling it human propaganda. But the story spread anyway. Crew members told their families. Families told friends. Word traveled through Council space in ways official channels could not control. Telrin heard the story and requested the full incident report. She read it 3 times. Then she began writing her own report, much longer and more detailed than standard diplomatic communications. She described human colonies and their priorities. She detailed the fair treatment humans offered to other species. She documented their technological advances and their willingness to share. She analyzed their philosophy of cooperation without subordination. She ended her report with a question that would have been unthinkable months ago. Perhaps the Council should reconsider which civilization is truly primitive. Telrin sent her report to selected Council members, younger diplomats, officers who had served near human space, scientists interested in new ideas, people who might listen. Some dismissed her report immediately, but others read it carefully. They recognized truth in her observations. They began asking their own questions. In the Council chambers, Vrath maintained confidence. Humanity would fail eventually. They always did. No species could thrive outside the Council's structure. But in quiet conversations between junior diplomats, in private messages between curious scientists, in late-night discussions between officers who had monitored human activities, different opinions were forming. Maybe humanity was showing them something important. Maybe the old ways were not the only ways. Maybe the galaxy could be different. Telrin sat in her quarters, looking at star charts showing human expansion. They were growing, not conquering, growing, building communities, establishing partnerships, creating something new. She made a decision. She would continue investigating. She would continue documenting. And when the time came, she would speak the truth she was discovering. The galaxy was changing, slowly, quietly, but undeniably. And humanity, without firing a single shot, was the reason why. 10 months after humanity's departure from peace talks, the galaxy faced a crisis that made political disputes seem meaningless. The Devourers emerged from dark space. They came without warning, their crystalline ships appearing in the outer regions of Chiric's territory. The insectoid species had faced many threats in their long history, but never anything like this. The Devourers were a hive intelligence made of living crystal. They appeared once every few centuries, consuming resources before disappearing back into the void between stars. Previous incursions involved small fleets taking what they needed and leaving. This time was different. This time, their fleet was massive. Chirruk's defensive forces engaged them immediately. The insectoid warriors fought bravely, using tactics refined over millennia. But their energy weapons barely scratched the crystalline hulls. Kinetic projectiles damaged devourer ships, but the crystal structures regenerated within hours. Worse, the devourers adapted to every tactic thrown at them, learning from each engagement. 3 Chirruk's colonies fell in the first week. Millions died. The survivors fled in whatever ships they could find, carrying desperate warnings to Council space. The Council's collective defense protocols activated. Emergency sessions ran constantly. Vrath coordinated military responses from Covenant's rest, while fleet commanders argued over strategies. The Korthax contributed their heavy warships. The Marek sent stealth fighters and fast attack craft. The Valorum provided logistical support and supply lines. Dozens of other species added what they could, but coordination was terrible. Each species had different military doctrines developed over centuries. The Korthax preferred direct frontal assaults with overwhelming firepower. The Marek favored ambush tactics and hit-and-run strikes. The Valorum excelled at siege warfare but struggled with rapid response. When they tried fighting together, the results were chaotic. Ships from different species could barely communicate effectively. Orders got lost in translation. Tactical decisions required approval from multiple command structures, wasting precious time. Friendly fire incidents occurred. Ships collided during maneuvers. The Council forces managed to slow the Devourer advance, but at devastating cost. For every Devourer ship destroyed, they lost 5 of their own. Casualties mounted. Resource supplies strained, refugee ships flooded Council space, overwhelming relief systems. The Devourers kept advancing toward the wealthy core systems. In the Council chambers, unity fractured under pressure. Who should pay for the defense? Which colonies deserved priority protection? The Chirruk's blamed slow Korthax response times. The Marek resented dangerous scouting missions while others held back. The Valorum complained about bearing too much logistical burden. Old grievances resurfaced. Old resentments boiled over. The careful political balance that held the Council together began cracking. Then came shocking news. A junior narrator analyst rushed into a strategy session, interrupting heated arguments between military commanders. "The humans!" she gasped. "They're coming!" Long-range sensors showed 23 human vessels approaching the combat zone at maximum speed, military ships, medical vessels, and support craft. The entire human fleet moving toward the war. The Council chamber fell silent, then erupted with confusion. "Why would humans help us?" demanded a Chirruk's admiral. "They owe us nothing," agreed a Korthax general. Vrath's eyes narrowed with suspicion. "They seek advantage. Perhaps they want salvage rights to Devourer technology, or they will demand concessions in exchange for aid." "We should block them from entering the combat zone," suggested a Marek commander. Ambassador Telrin stood. As a junior member, interrupting was bold, but she spoke anyway. "Remember the Nightingale incident? Human behavior has been consistent. When they see beings in need, they help. Perhaps they are simply doing what they believe is right." Several council members laughed. Such naivety. No species acted purely from altruism. Everyone wanted something. But others, especially those whose people had quietly traded with humans, listened thoughtfully. The Council voted narrowly to allow human ships into the combat zone, but to monitor them carefully. Vrath insisted on observers aboard human vessels. The humans accepted without argument. The UHMS Determination led the human fleet. Its captain was Min Seo Park, daughter of Ambassador Min Jun Park. She stood on her bridge, reviewing tactical data while her crew prepared for combat. Her first officer, Commander Jackson Wright, approached. "Captain, we're receiving transmissions from Council forces. They want to know our intentions." "Tell them we're here to help defend against the Devourers," Mincio said simply. "Should we mention that we're seeking nothing in return? They'll figure that out soon enough." The human fleet arrived at Hive 7, a besieged Chirix colony. The Devourers had surrounded the planet, their crystalline ships forming a consuming sphere that grew tighter every hour. Inside, 40,000 Chirix civilians waited for death or rescue. Council forces had tried breaking through the blockade 4 times. All 4 attempts failed with heavy losses. Captain Park studied the tactical situation. She opened communication with Council fleet commanders. "This is Captain Park of the UHMS Determination. We propose a coordinated rescue operation." A Korthax admiral appeared on screen, his scales dark with exhaustion. "We have tried. The Devourer formation is impenetrable." "We don't need to penetrate it," Park explained. "We create multiple simultaneous distractions while a smaller force evacuates civilians. Hit them from 8 different vectors at once. Force them to spread their attention." A Marak commander hissed skeptically. "That requires dividing our already limited forces. Too risky." "Calculated risk," Park corrected. "The Devourers have shown they adapt to repeated tactics but struggle with truly simultaneous different approaches. If we hit them with enough variety at once, they cannot optimize their response." The Council commanders looked at each other. They had no better options. Hive 7's shields would fail within 12 hours. "Agreed," the Korthax admiral said finally. Captain Park coordinated the assault. Human vessels took primary communication roles, managing real-time tactical adjustments. This was new for Council forces. Usually, each species maintained separate command structures with minimal coordination. The attack began. Korthax heavy cruisers struck from the north. Marak fighters swarmed from the east. Valorum support ships created sensor interference from the south. Human vessels hit from multiple angles, constantly shifting positions and tactics. For the first time, Council forces fought as a truly unified fleet. The Devourers tried adapting, but the constant variety overwhelmed their learning capacity. Gaps appeared in their formation. Council evacuation ships slipped through, racing to Hive 7's surface. The human ship UHMS Guardian took heavy damage covering the evacuation route. Its shields collapsed. Hull breaches appeared, but the crew held position, weapons firing until the last civilian transport cleared the danger zone. 40,000 Chirix escaped. The mission succeeded. In the aftermath, Council commanders watched battle recordings. They saw human vessels taking damage to protect Council ships. They saw human tactical officers coordinating species that had barely spoken to each other weeks ago. They saw something they had not seen in centuries. They saw what genuine cooperation looked like. Vrath watched the same recordings from Covenant's Rest. His expression was unreadable, but inside, something troubled him deeply. The Council forces were fighting better with human coordination than they had managed in centuries of independent operations. The humans were not superior warriors. Their weapons were actually less advanced than Council equivalents. Their ships were smaller and less powerful, but they knew how to work together. They knew how to make different strengths combine into something greater than the sum of parts. Vrath turned away from the screens. He told himself this changed nothing. The humans were helping from desperation, or for future advantage, or from some naive idealism that would fade with time. But deep down, a question formed that he could not quite suppress. What if the Council had been wrong about humanity? What if walking away from those peace talks had not been human weakness, but human wisdom? What if the real primitives were the ones who could not imagine cooperation without subordination? The war against the Devourers continued for 3 more months. The human fleet remained in the combat zone, fighting alongside Council forces. Slowly, impossibly, the tide turned. Not because of superior weapons, Human technology was actually less powerful than most Council equivalents. The change came from something simpler and more profound. It came from coordination. Captain Minseo Park established a unified command structure that respected each species' strengths. Korthak's heavy cruisers became breakthrough weapons, smashing through devourer formations. Merak's stealth fighters gathered intelligence before attacks. Valorum cargo ships transformed into mobile repair platforms. Human vessels served as tactical coordinators and rapid response units. Most importantly, humans shared everything in real time: sensor data, tactical innovations, casualty reports, supply needs. Every ship in the Allied fleet had access to the same information simultaneously. No delays, no political filtering, no information hoarding for advantage. The Devourers adapted to individual tactics, but they struggled against coordinated, flexible strategies that changed constantly. Human commanders introduced concepts foreign to Council military doctrine. They encouraged decentralized decision-making, where individual ship captains could adjust plans without waiting for high command approval. They created cross-species integrated crews. They employed asymmetric warfare approaches where weaker forces used creativity instead of strength. A young human tactical officer named Lieutenant Han Soo-jin developed a breakthrough strategy. Instead of fighting Devourer vessels directly, she identified their coordination nodes. The crystalline ships communicated through resonance patterns. Disrupt those patterns, and individual Devourer vessels became isolated. Isolated Devourer ships could be overwhelmed by coordinated attacks. The strategy worked brilliantly. The Devourer advance halted. Then it reversed. Allied forces began reclaiming lost territory. Casualties dropped significantly. Victory became possible. Council officers who initially resented human interference now requested human tactical advisors. Mixed species crews that seemed impossible weeks ago became standard practice. A Korthak's weapons officer working beside a Merak pilot under human command was no longer unusual. It was effective. Ambassador Telrin was assigned as Council liaison to the human fleet. She moved aboard the Determination, ostensibly to monitor human activities and report back. In reality, she wanted to understand. What she witnessed challenged everything she thought she knew about civilization. She watched human crew members grieve over fallen Council personnel as if they were human. When a Chirix fighter pilot died protecting a human supply ship, the Determination's crew held a memorial service. They learned Chirix mourning customs and performed them respectfully. They meant it. She saw Captain Park refuse to abandon damaged Council vessels, even when tactically disadvantageous. During one engagement, the Determination could have escaped with minimal damage. Instead, Park positioned her ship to shield a crippled Valorum cruiser until rescue arrived. The Determination took serious hull damage. 3 human crew members died. Park never hesitated. She observed human medical staff treating wounded Chirix, Korthaks, and Merak with equal care. No triage based on species or political importance. Only medical need mattered. One night, Telrin found Captain Park in the observation deck, staring at the stars. The captain looked exhausted. They had just fought a brutal 14-hour engagement. "May I ask you something?" Telrin said quietly. Park nodded without looking away from the stars. "Why did humanity intervene? You owe the Council nothing. In fact, we tried to isolate you, threaten you, diminish you. Why help?" Park was quiet for a moment. Then she said simply, "Because they needed help." "That's all? That's everything?" Park finally looked at Telrin. "Humanity learned hard lessons in our history. We nearly destroyed ourselves through division and conflict. We survived by understanding that cooperation isn't weakness, it's strength. Sovereignty isn't isolationism. It's the foundation for genuine partnership. And dignity isn't something you demand. It's something you give freely and expect in return." "But the peace talks," Telrin pressed. "Don't you resent what the Council tried to do?" Park shook her head. Resentment is pointless. The Council offered what they always offer: subordination disguised as membership. We simply chose a different path. But that doesn't mean we want the Council to fail or suffer. There's room in the galaxy for different approaches. This conversation haunted Telrin for days. She began sending detailed reports back to Council chambers. Not just military updates, but observations about human philosophy and behavior. She described their minimal hierarchies. She documented how even junior crew members could question orders if they saw better approaches. She noted the voluntary integration of Council species into human crews, working as equals. Many Council members dismissed her reports as naive idealism, but others recognized truth in her observations. Younger diplomats and officers who had worked directly with humans knew she was right. The final Devourer stronghold was in the Shattered Belt, a debris field near former Chirrut space. The crystalline ships had established a massive harvesting operation, consuming asteroids and wrecked vessels to build reinforcements. Council intelligence estimated it would take 500 ships and tens of thousands of casualties to destroy them. Captain Park proposed something radical. "What if we try negotiating?" The Council commanders reacted with disbelief and anger. The Korthax admiral's scales darkened. "The Devourers have never communicated. They simply consume." "Because no one tried systematic communication," Park argued. "What if they're not mindless? What if they're just different from us?" "This is foolish," a Marak commander hissed. "We should strike now with full force." But Park persisted. "We've lost thousands already. Let me try. If it fails, we attack. But if it succeeds, we end this without more deaths." Reluctantly, the Council approved. Captain Park led a small diplomatic mission into the Shattered Belt. She took Telrin with her, along with volunteers from multiple species. They approached the Devourer harvesting site slowly, broadcasting mathematical sequences, chemical formulas, and star charts. Universal concepts any intelligent species should recognize. For 3 days, nothing happened. The Devourers ignored them. Some Council commanders prepared to say they had tried and failed. Then, on the 4th day, the Devourers responded. Not with words, but with patterns. Light frequencies that matched the mathematical sequences. Chemical formulas rearranged in new ways. It was communication. Primitive, but real. For 2 weeks, Park's team worked to establish basic exchange. It was exhausting, frustrating work, but slowly understanding emerged. The Devourers were not conquerors seeking to destroy civilizations. They were harvesters on a journey through dark space that lasted millennia. They gathered resources for their long voyage. They did not understand concepts like ownership or property. To them, asteroids and abandoned vessels were simply available matter. They did not know they were killing people. They did not understand that colonies were different from asteroid fields. Park proposed a solution. Council species would identify resource-rich areas in uninhabited systems. The Devourers could harvest what they needed without attacking colonies. In exchange, the Devourers would avoid inhabited space. It was not perfect peace. The Devourers were too alien for complete understanding. But it was accommodation. The violence could end. Council commanders struggled to accept this. They wanted military victory, not negotiated settlement. But the alternative was thousands more deaths. They agreed. The Devourer fleet withdrew to designated harvesting zones. The war ended. Not with humanity's superior firepower, but with their willingness to try understanding instead of just fighting. Council forces stood down, victorious but confused. Many could not process what had happened. They came expecting a brutal campaign. They found peace through communication. Telrin stood beside Captain Park as they watched the last Devourer ships depart. "You changed everything," Telrin said quietly. Park shook her head. "We just offered a different approach. The Council could have tried this centuries ago." We never thought to try. I know, Park said gently. That's the real problem, isn't it? The Council forgot how to imagine alternatives. Telrin had no answer. She was beginning to understand that humanity's greatest strength was not their technology or their tactics. It was their refusal to accept that things had to be the way they had always been. The galaxy could be different, and humanity proved it every day. 6 weeks after the Devourer peace, Ambassador Minjun Park received an unexpected message. The Galactic Council formally invited humanity to return to Covenant's Rest for new discussions. Minjun read the message carefully. His first instinct was skepticism. Was this another attempt at subordination? But the message was different from before. It was signed by 20 different council ambassadors, including Telrin. The tone was respectful, almost humble. Minjun assembled his delegation, the same team that walked out months ago. Dr. Sarah Chen, Captain James Rodriguez, Economic Advisor Yoon Ji-woo, and Cultural Liaison David Okonkwo. They prepared for another battle of wills. Their ship arrived at Covenant's Rest to find the atmosphere transformed. Where before there was cold formality, now there was genuine welcome. Council species that barely acknowledged humans before now greeted them warmly. Some even applauded as the human delegation entered. Ambassador Telrin met them at the docking bay. Minjun saw something different in her eyes, respect that was earned, not given from obligation. "Welcome back, Ambassador Park," she said formally. Then, more quietly, "Thank you for coming." The session began with Council Speaker Vrath standing. His scales seemed less dark than before, his posture less rigid. When he spoke, his voice carried something that had been absent in their previous meetings: humility. "The Council has asked humanity to return because we were wrong," Vrath said. The chamber fell silent. "We misjudged your species. We saw your youth among the stars and assumed weakness. We interpreted your desire for partnership as naivety. We offered subordination because that is how the Council has always operated. Ancient species ruling over newcomers in a hierarchy disguised as cooperation." He paused, looking directly at Minjun. "But humanity showed us something different. During the crisis, you fought and bled alongside our people, asking nothing in return. You shared your innovations freely. You treated our personnel as equals, not as political assets. You ended a war through understanding rather than overwhelming force. The Council has been operating under outdated assumptions for millennia. Humanity exposed those flaws." Other Council members spoke. A Chirix admiral described how human tactical coordination saved thousands of his people. His voice carried emotion that translator devices struggled to convey. "My colony worlds still stand because humans helped defend them. My people still live because human medical ships treated our wounded." A Marak scientist talked about research insights humans shared without demanding exclusive rights. "In 3 months, humans gave us more collaborative knowledge than we gained in 3 centuries of Council membership." A Valorum merchant discussed fair trade practices. "Human merchants offered honest prices and respected our needs. No exploitation, no political demands attached to every transaction." Each testimony revealed the same pattern. Humanity operated on principles of genuine partnership, not hierarchical control. Then, Ambassador Telrin approached the speaker's platform. As a junior member, her testimony carried less official weight, but everyone listened. They knew she had spent months observing humans directly. "I have studied humanity carefully," Telrin began. "I observed their colonies, their vessels, their interactions with other species. I have analyzed their civilization structure and philosophy." She looked around the chamber. "The Council's structure is built on subordination and carefully maintained power imbalances. We present this as natural order, as simply how civilizations must organize, but it is unsustainable." Murmurs rippled through the chamber. Several conservative members looked outraged, but Telrin continued. Younger species will always eventually resent being kept in inferior positions. The Council survives through momentum and lack of alternatives, but humanity offers an alternative. A model where sovereignty and cooperation coexist, where partnership does not require surrender. I have seen it work. We all have. The chamber erupted in debate. Conservative council members accused Telrin of naive idealism. The galaxy had always operated on hierarchies. Strength dominated weakness. That was universal law. But younger council members pushed back. Those who fought alongside humans. Those who traded with them. Those who saw the alternative work. They wanted that for their own species. The debate raged for hours. Finally, Vrath called for order. He presented new terms for humanity. Not the harsh demands from before, but genuine partnership. Shared technology development with mutual benefit. Coordinated defense with equal command participation. Open trade without tribute requirements. Full council membership with immediate voting rights. It was everything humanity originally hoped for. Min-Jun listened carefully. He conferred briefly with his delegation. Then he stood to respond. We thank the Council for these revised terms. They are fair and respectful. He paused. But humanity needs time to consider carefully. Confusion rippled through the chamber. These were generous terms. What more could humans want? Min-Jun explained. Months ago, we discovered we can thrive independently. We built strong relationships with independent systems. We proved we do not need council approval to expand or succeed. You are not offering something we desperately need anymore. You are offering partnership between equals. Vrath leaned forward. What would make humanity accept? Reform, Min-Jun said simply. Not just the terms offered to us, but the entire structure. No more forcing younger species into subordinate positions. No more tribute requirements disguised as membership fees. No more oversight that is really just control. True partnership for all members, regardless of age or strength. The conservative members reacted with anger. Such reforms would fundamentally change their society. Centuries of tradition would be overturned. But the reformists argued back. The Devourer crisis exposed the Council's weaknesses. Poor coordination, divided loyalties, resentful member species fighting half-heartedly for a system that exploited them. Change was necessary. The debate grew heated. Species shouted at each other. Old alliances fractured. New coalitions formed. Min-Jun waited patiently. Then he spoke again. We are not demanding immediate decision. Take whatever time you need. Humanity will continue building relationships, expanding carefully, and trading fairly. If the Council chooses to reform and offer genuine partnership to all members, we will gladly join. If not, we will continue our independent path and remain friends with those willing to work as equals. The human delegation prepared to leave again. But this time felt different. Council members approached them individually. Some wanted bilateral relationships outside formal council channels. Others asked about human colonies accepting refugees or students. A few even quietly inquired if humanity would support their species if they chose to leave the council. Captain James Rodriguez whispered to Min-Jun, "We might be starting something bigger than we intended." "We started it when we walked out," Min-Jun replied quietly. "We just reminded them that alternatives exist." Ambassador Telrin approached as they prepared to depart. "I am resigning my council position," she said quietly. "I am going to work with the reform movement. If the council will not evolve, I will help build something better." Min-Jun clasped her hand in the human gesture of friendship. "You are always welcome among us." As the human ship departed Covenant's Rest, the crew watched the station recede. Sarah Chen spoke first. "We really just turned down council membership." "We turned down membership in an unjust system," Min-Jun corrected, "but I think we helped start something better." Back in the council chambers, Vrath stood alone long after everyone departed. He looked at the empty seats, the silent halls. The comfortable hierarchy was cracking. Species were questioning. Old alliances were shifting. He finally understood their mistake. Humanity did not need the Council's permission to be great. The Council needed humanity's example to remember what genuine partnership looked like. By walking out of those peace talks, humanity forced the galaxy to recognize something fundamental. Respect cannot be demanded or negotiated. It must be freely given. And humanity, by refusing to surrender their dignity, earned more respect than subordination ever would have achieved. The galaxy was changing, slowly, painfully, but undeniably. And humanity, without ever firing a shot in anger at the Council, became the catalyst for that change. Not through dominance, but through the simple act of walking away and proving there was a better way. Vrath sat in his seat, alone in the empty chamber. For the first time in 3 decades as council speaker, he wondered if his civilization's greatest achievements were actually its greatest failures. Outside, the stars turned. Human ships moved through space, building something new. Council species watched and wondered, some with fear, some with hope, but all with growing certainty. The galaxy would never be the same. Humanity walked out of peace talks, and in doing so they taught the galaxy that sometimes the most powerful action is simply refusing to accept things as they are. Sometimes dignity requires walking away, and sometimes walking away changes everything.